Welcome to Maker's Perspective. Here I'm going to be making a cone, but more specifically a pilsner shape, essentially a cone with a wide lip and a narrow bottom. For continuity, this piece is started just the same as all the rest for the first iteration of the series, one bubble and then one gather on top of that starter bubble. After marvering and popping air, I sit down at the bench with my jacks, straighten out the sides of the blades, and then paddle on the bottom with the back end of the jacks. By placing my blades on the moil and coming down, I'm using the moil as a registry for how I want the piece to be shaped. That is something I do for the cones and for the cylinders that you've seen. So once my bubble has cooled down enough, I go back to the furnace and gather. I ease it in at an angle, and once the glass covers the top of the moil from the first gather, I start turning 2 to 3 revolutions. As I hit that final third or so revolution, I start coming down and pulling back to cut the trail from my gather. Then I come out of the furnace. I go to the bench and I block the whole piece by taking my time. On the ledge of the furnace, I'm usually able to get the piece quite hot, so that then when I block, the glass is all one heat. Though I won't always heat after my first gather, for continuity of this series, I'm doing that. Unfortunately, this is a bit more glass than I like to have, but I'm going with it. Block it up, blow, and hang a bit. A little more air, and then I go and heat. When I go to the marver, I go on the tip, and then I marver all the way down to the shoulder, basically making a cone. Essentially, I'm letting the glass know what shape I want from here on out. The swing and a stretch, jacks at a slight angle, making sure to blow up the shoulder, but keep that bottom fairly narrow. Basically, a short and squat version of my final shape. Starting my jack line, using my blades to support the shoulder, JW is blowing, and essentially I'm setting up the volume of the shape. You can see, because of where that clear is at the bottom, it still has a little bit of an angle to it. and that angle is conducive to the shape that I'll be working into. After flashing, I'm heating up to the shoulder. That shoulder is approximately 1 to 2 inches from the widest part of this piece. So I'll be heating it there and we'll be dropping it out from that area. But because it's a cone, that will not be the widest part. The lip will be. So heating it at an angle in the glory hole. And you can see raising it up while still heating, getting that angle and using gravity and heat. Then by giving it a little swing, you can start to see that I have a conical shape.
Puff light. Good stuff.
Little puff of air and using the jacks as a mold for that shape. And back to the heat. Kind of repeat this process a couple of times. Further dropping it out, but that time I heated a little deeper so that the shoulder also narrowed a bit and dropped out some. When I use my jacks, I'm careful to put them on the stiffer part of the shoulder and then bring it down to the hotter glass.
Good stuff.
Notice when I go in for a nice deep flash, and now I'm heating, and you can kind of see a little north of level. Flashing at an angle. Making sure that oil gets plenty of heat, giving it heat at an angle, and then dropping it out.
Blow.
Jacks on the sides, again, that's basically my mold. I just need to have them in the same plane and have the air push the glass so that the material meets the jacks and maintains the shape that I want. Now, as with other pieces in this series, I typically would pull the tail and yank out this shape. However, if I was making a larger cone, I would probably do it in this manner and in this style. But for a tall cylinder or a cone this way, I typically, for something of this scale, draw out a tail, blow it up, and yank it out with diamond shears. But this method,
Blow. Blow hard.
it works for larger things too.
Great stop.
Getting that last little bit of shape. Now putting on the goody tube and going to have JW paddle. Heat up the bottom, little air pressure, put my jacks on the sides at that angle, and JW pushes with the paddle on the bottom until it becomes a nice refined
All right, honey.
edge. Torch the neckline and moil. Now, even though this is still a very narrow bottom, I will still put a little mark on it. For something like this, it's a lot easier to hit center without the marker. But I like to make things as dumb as possible for me. So if marking a little bottom is going to help it out and dumb it down, then I'll do it. A nice deep flash, and I'll be ready for the punny.
All right, yeah, I'm good.
JW comes over, I touch it on. It's just a little off, but I can take my tweezers and give it a slight push. Then take my water tweezers, get most of it off with a moil, and then 2 drops right on the jack line and a tap. You can see here, instead of my tweezers, I grab my paddle. I really like having a small paddle. I grab my paddle because the narrowness at the back and the weight, I can take the top, find the high side, and lift. Then let that weight at the bottom sink back onto the hot punny. So there I'm lifting, and that weight and the heat lets the piece center itself. I also use the paddle to do that move and straighten things on larger pieces. Essentially on a larger piece, you can just ride the shoulder of the piece, look at the bottom, and lift. And if the bottom has enough mass, it's going to fall on center. So a flash, and now heating up just that top 2 inches to finish off the shape. Go back to the bench, grab my tweezers, and tweeze from the top angle. I pinch everything around the top and then use that cold area as what I'm pulling at. Then I grab my shears, come in at a slight angle, and then just feed them in. Essentially, when I'm tweezing, if I've tweezed all the way around it, I've got that area cold, and I'm using that as an anchor point to then grab that cold glass and pull the hot glass that's behind it. Now a quick flash, jacks on the inside and JW with the paddle on the out. And you can see I just have about 2 inches to finish. It's kind of angled the opposite way. Good flash. And then heating up the top. Since it's a narrow bottom, there's not a lot of heat retained back there. as if it's a wide cylinder or something. So it's good to kind of flash it a little bit more. I go right for the Sophie, JW comes over, blows, and then I pull back when I'm done having it inflated. So a flash, then I grab my jacks, and I go on the outside so I can't open it up any more than I've already set as far as my shape. And a paddle and jacks. Jacks are going to go on the outside, and then I'll grab the Sophie with my jack. Give a good puff, pull back the pipe, and I'm done inflating it. I like putting the jacks on the outside and then grabbing the piece with the Sophie. It's less moves. I'm not dropping down the tools and then grabbing the Sophie with my hands. I just use the tool there. Now it'll be a couple of quick heats to finish opening. Jacks on the outside, open up the lip, widen the jacks as well, and go down to the bottom. To make sure I'm following the whole contour or that line, plane that I've set.
It is what it is.
Kind of go back and
All
forth.
right, sir.
And there you have a cone shape with a wider lip and a narrow bottom. Basically what I would consider a pilsner shape. I'm going to torch that connection and give it a good flash. Now this same shape is something that I would think would be ideal to drop a foot or to make an actual pilsner glass. Drop of water at the connection, bonk, and then torching the sharp part out of the punty. This would even be a method for, say, a pint glass, just not as exaggerated. Anyways, there's a cone with a wider lip and a narrower bottom. Thanks for watching Maker's Perspective. Cheers.